What if I told you that Max Verstappen might actually be faster in his team's sister car rather than the Red Bull he's been dominating in for years? What if the four-time world champion is being held back by the very team that made him a legend? And what if Fernando Alonso is right when he says Verstappen could fight for the championship in a Racing Bulls car? These aren't just wild theories anymore. The evidence from recent races is painting a picture that's making even Verstappen himself question whether Red Bull has lost its way. Hajar's maiden podium in Zandvoort wasn't just a feel-good story. It exposed a problem at Red Bull that runs much deeper than anyone imagined. Let's look at the numbers that are making Red Bull engineers lose sleep. Since Lawson's demotion from Red Bull back to Racing Bulls, both he and Hajar have dramatically outscored Tsunoda. Lawson has 20 points, Hajar has 37, while Tsunoda, driving the supposedly superior Red Bull, has managed just 9 points. That's not a small gap, that's a complete reversal of what should be happening. But here's where it gets really concerning for Red Bull. Verstappen himself admitted after Zandvoort that he was more or less on pace with our sister team throughout the entire race. As he put it, yeah, that should not be. That is not good. When your four-time world champion is admitting parity with the B team, something's fundamentally wrong. The pattern becomes even clearer when you look at Tsunoda's trajectory. He was consistently in the top 6 with Racing Bulls early in the season, then suddenly found himself struggling to get out of Q1 after his promotion to Red Bull. Meanwhile, Lawson, who was struggling at Red Bull, immediately found his form again after being demoted back to Racing Bulls. Now, you might think this is just about driver adaptation or confidence. After all, some drivers click with certain cars better than others, right? Red Bull, BIME principal Laurent Mekies, seems to think that's the explanation. He argued that there's a genesis of the car and that the cars are coming from is too different for anyone to transfer anything from one car to another. Mekies continued, it's really down to how it was developed from early on. So ultimately, Red Bull chose the wrong development path yet again. This suggests it's simply a case of different development philosophies leading to different car characteristics. But here's the problem with that explanation. It doesn't account for the consistency of the pattern. Every driver who's moved between these teams has experienced the same phenomenon. Better performance at Racing Bulls, struggles at Red Bull. That's not coincidence. That's systematic. But wait. Because what I'm about to show you changes everything we thought we knew about Red Bull's dominance. Fernando Alonso dropped a bombshell that cuts right to the heart of this issue. The two-time world champion stated, "The Racing Bulls always have a plane. If Verstappen were in that car, he'd fight for the championship." We saw it at the start of the year with Tsunoda, who was always in the top 6, and then was suddenly out in Q1 at Red Bull. This isn't just Alonso being controversial, he's identifying a fundamental difference in car philosophy. Racing Bulls appears to have developed a car that's simply easier to drive and understand. While Red Bull has been chasing complex aerodynamic concepts, their sister team has focused on creating a predictable, driver-friendly platform. Verstappen's own words from Zandvoort support this theory. He explained, "Our car is just not quick enough. I also have to save a lot in the quick corners, while the other teams can go much quicker through T7 and T8, and I still have no grip." He's describing a car that's fighting him rather than working with him. The technical exodus from Red Bull tells the complete story. Since Adrian Newey's departure, followed by key personnel like Wheatley and Courtney, and culminating with Christian Horner being sacked, Red Bull has lost its technical direction. According to Helmut Marko, Horner's dismissal had nothing to do with the internal power shift, but rather with the lack of results under his leadership. Here's what makes the situation critical for Red Bull's future. Verstappen's contract commitment only extends to 2026, the first year of new regulations. If Red Bull can't solve their current car concept issues, what happens? when they have to start fresh in 2026? The evidence suggests they're already behind the curve. While Racing Bulls has created a car that multiple drivers can extract performance from, Red Bull has built a machine that even their four-time world champion admits is fundamentally flawed. Verstappen noted that having Hajar 2 seconds behind you the entire race should start some uncomfortable conversations during the debrief. The Constructors' Championship standings tell the story. Red Bull sits fourth, while Racing Bulls fights for fifth with Aston Martin and Williams. Yes, Racing Bulls had early season struggles with poor tactics, but their recent form shows what's possible when everything clicks. Think about the implications here. If Sergio Perez's struggles weren't about his ability, but about the car, and Cadillac clearly believes this since they've signed him, then Red Bull has been solving the wrong problem for years. They've been changing drivers instead of fixing their design philosophy. This brings us to the most intriguing question of all. What would happen if Verstappen actually switched to Racing Bulls? He admitted he could join them if he wants from next weekend onwards, since he's not fighting for the championship anyway. Would such a move prove that Red Bull's technical team has completely lost their way? Would it demonstrate that their sister team has actually outdeveloped them? And most importantly, could Verstappen, the master of adaptation, extract even more performance from a car that's already putting drivers on the podium? The upcoming races will be crucial. Watch how the gap between these sister teams evolves. Pay attention to Verstappen's radio messages about the car's handling. And notice whether Red Bull can implement any lessons from Racing Bull's approach, or if their pride prevents them from learning from their own sister team. The most shocking part of this entire situation, Racing Bulls proving that sometimes the student becomes the teacher. And in Formula One, that's a lesson that could cost Red Bull everything they've built. What do you think? Could Verstappen actually win races in a Racing Bulls car? And would that expose the biggest weakness in Red Bull's current approach? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.